Welcome to the Gain Traction Podcast, where we feature top automotive entrepreneurs and experts and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi, I'm Neal Maier.
And I'm Mike Edge. Today, Neal and I are hosts of Gain Traction, where we talk with top automotive business leaders about their journeys.
We have Jeremy Weiss of Rise 25 with us today, who's done thousands of interviews with successful entrepreneurs and CEOs. Today, Jeremy's going to interview us.
I'm excited. This is a special episode because this is going to be a year in review, top lessons, top guests on, and we're going to get into it and your expertise, both Neal and Mike. And before we launch into it, this episode is brought to you by Tread Partners. And at Tread Partners, I know you provide digital marketing for multi-location tire dealers and auto repair shops. And you use, I don't want to age both of you, but like you have decades and decades of experience, which is a good thing. And you use strategy, branding, and marketing services to help shops sell more tires and to put more cars in bays. So if that's you, what are you waiting for? Check them out, treadpartners.com, or email info@treadpartners to learn more. If you're watching the video part, you can see we're on the Tread Partners podcast here page, and we're going to go through some of the top ones. And we're going to start with inspiring success by sharing stories. And this is with Bryce Evans. He's the vice president of content and events at 10 Missions Media. He oversees the company's 6 national brands. And a couple of things that stuck out in this episode, talked about obviously the milestones for 10 Missions Media. When's the next Adapt Summit? He talks about daily rituals and much more.
Yeah, I did this interview, Jeremy, and it was a great interview. Bryce was just as personable as could be, and we actually just hit it off on a personal level. But the big takeaway for me was the Adapt Summit. And I told him during the interview, we're going. And it's unfortunately I missed it this year, and it was just a couple hours away from me. But next year this coming year, it's in Dallas, and I think the dates are September 24th to 25th. And but now Bryce is just a super talented guy. He's been in the industry a long time, and it's great to have somebody from the publication side. They have 6 brands, 10 Missions Media. Most people know him by Modern Tire Dealer, and Bryce was as personable as could be, and it was just one of those fun interviews that you remember.
What type of companies go to Adapt?
Anybody in the automotive sector, and it basically says learn directly from automakers and industry leaders on the future of automotive technology. So it's very you're going to network there, but you're going to learn a lot. It's there for the next phases of the technology and different phases of the business.
Neal, what other events do you like to go to throughout the year or throughout the years?
Over the years, my goals with events has changed quite a bit. Everybody loves to go to SEMA, right? That's the big hit of the year. But ultimately, I really value having time to talk to shop owners, meet with business owners, and really the smaller events are my preference.
Love it. The next one we're going to talk about here is from a mall basement to multi-location tire business with Rob Askew. He's the co-founder and co-owner of True Automotive in Atlanta, and he's been in the repair business since 2005. And some of the things that stuck out in this one, again, he talked about some of the milestones. He talked about, how COVID impacted True Automotive. He talked about some of the mentors. And again, it came up with daily rituals.
I interviewed Rob as well. Rob is high energy. He's a lot of fun. And, it's fun to deal and work with people that have high goals. And he does. They started out with, 1 shop. They want to get to 50. I think they're at 7, 8 now. So they've really come a long way in a short period of time, but they really have a nice plan to move forward. And I think that's what made it an exciting interview. The other thing that stood out to me about Rob that was, I think this is spectacular, but through COVID, it affected their business in a big way, slowed things down in certain stores, and they kept every employee, and they dug deep in their own savings to weather the storm so that nobody had to lose their job. And, when you're working for people like that, that tells you everything right there. That was their own sacrifice to keep employees, knowing that, hey, they didn't know when the storm was going to end. They just looked at it like, hey, this is what we're here for. We got to weather it together. And they did. And now they're on the sunnier side of it, and they're growing again, and they're looking at more acquisitions, et cetera. And just a fun interview all the way around. Rob's a very nice guy, and just very aggressive in the industry.
Mike, Rob has one of those personalities that he has really big plans, but there's no question whether or not he's going to do it.
That's exactly it. And you just feel it with the energy and really the compassion he has for his employees. He wants them to be as excited as he is about it. So you can feel it. So it's one of those memorable podcasts that I did, and I enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed getting to know Rob. He's one of those guys, if I go through Atlanta, I'm calling him just to go get a cup of coffee or dinner or something.
How did COVID affect these industries? I know, there's supply chain issues, and I feel like, I don't know if they were booming during COVID, or how did it affect this?
It brought the industry to a screeching halt. The minute that everyone abandoned their offices and canceled travel plans, our industry really thrives off miles driven. And it had a severe impact on it. One of the things we did right out of the gate, understanding that none of us had ever envisioned anything like this, never even considered anything like this happening. We started seeing some clients come up with really great ideas to support their teams, to support their communities, other businesses. And we quickly put together a weekly meeting with all our clients. We did a what's working now session. And those were, one, we've got a lot of clients who'd never met each other. But two, to hear the energy and the successes shared and ideas that spun out of those meetings, just a really great thing.
Yeah, it brought people together.
Absolutely.
The next one, continuing education for tire employees. Scott Blair is founder of the Track Auto Training and Network, and he's a 28-year veteran of the tire and custom wheel industry. Some of the things that stuck out with Scott is, kind of the Track Auto Training and what that is and their training system, some of the new features, some of the best advice he received, which includes never stop learning, and kind of how he became passionate about training tire employees.
So Matt Peters of Tire Web Marketing introduced me to Scott years ago. And I'll tell you something that's not in the episode that I think is really interesting about Scott. He is a pioneer in the mobile tire world. So I made a note, he and I really need to record a second episode to talk about it. But if there's a trend, in the industry moving towards having mobile vans, being able to install tires on site and make it more convenient for your customers. Scott pioneered a model that works. It's profitable, it's highly successful, and just, man, Scott missed his calling to be an engineer. The way these vans are set up inside, they're ergonomically designed. Every movement is calculated in there when you've got such limited space. You'd be hard pressed to find anybody that knows more about mounting and balancing tires and wheels and fitment than Scott.
Love it. The next one is building a unified team culture. Tim Winkler is the president and CEO of VIP Tires and Service with 63 locations across the U.S. Looks like the upper Northeast. And some of the things that were stuck out on this one, the transformation of VIP Tires and Service over the past 12 years, unifying the service and office teams together. And you talked a little bit about where the automotive industry is headed. And unfortunately, he's a St. Louis Cardinals fan. I'm from Chicago. So, and the Cubs fan, I've gone to that stadium and they did not like me there. But what stuck out with Tim?
Well, first of all, because you're heading up this podcast, Jeremy, I love the fact that he's a St. Louis Cardinal fan. So I go-karts, but he just a great guy. I mean, it was another one we hit it off personally. I thought his career move from Oklahoma to Maine was substantial, but then he, and not only from the work perspective, but moving your family from Oklahoma to Maine, completely different climate, and they loved it and stayed. And he's had a great, his thing is about building culture. Like one of the things you pointed out in the bullet points was the two different departments and bringing them together instead of being opposed to each other, and unifying, service and the office teams and making sure that, hey, we're all in this for the customer at the end of the day. And it's not us inside versus them on the outside or in the bays, and trying to create that team atmosphere. And it really, from Tim's enthusiasm, it really feels like he's done that, and he feels like they're constantly heading in that direction. And just overall, another fun interview when you connect with somebody and you love the passion about what their goals are. And his is continual growth, but growth with unity inside the company and everybody benefiting and loving where they work. And you could feel that.
This is an episode that Mike beat me to the interview. Right as Mike was recording this podcast, I was recording one with Steve Ferrante of Pinnacle Performance Training. And at the end, Steve and I are talking for a few minutes, and he said, who'd be really great for your podcast? You really ought to talk to Tim at VIP. I'll introduce you. And about 30 minutes later, I realized that Mike had just recorded it. So I had to call Steve and say, hang on a minute, Mike's already beat me to the punch.
Love it.
Yeah, and that's a good problem to have. I mean, but Neal and I think a lot alike, and when we see folks out there or get referred to, it would be a good interview. That's what makes this whole fun process.
The next one is attracting customers through interactive videos. Patrick Egan's the founder of Spark Interactive, and he fuses kind of the power of storytelling with the technology of video. And a couple of things that stuck out in this is kind of his roots in the automotive industry. He talks about why he focused on video and some of the interactive stuff that he gives customers, that virtual 360 view when they're walking into the shop, and much more.
Yeah, so Patrick and I actually met at a show, and we were each in a booth next to each other. And you know how shows go, they have their ups and downs throughout the time and the ebb and flow of the audience or crowd. And as the show continued, Patrick and I got to talk a lot, and then we'd break together and eat a lot together, and just deep connection in regards to on a personal level, but he understanding where he came from in the industry. He's been a marketing director for several major companies in the industry, and he knows the industry extremely well. He said this has been his dream job. He finally got to it, which was exciting to hear somebody have that passion about it. And he knows his space. It's not like he doesn't want to do any more than video, because that's what he's very good at in telling the story. And he's like, the important thing is when you go to a shop, or when you go to somebody's website, technically they're kind of in your virtual shop. So let's sell it right then and let them feel the shop right then. So the video is meant to make, you can't read it the same way. You can't just look at pictures the same way. But if you're allowed to flow through the entire facility in video and see the people that you're going to encounter when you go in there, man, how personal is that? And then he makes the videos usually, 2-3 minutes long. So it's not like it's a pain in time trying to get through it or anything like that. You look at it and you say, hey, it's a 3-minute video. I think I want to go through this store real quick. It sells you on the shop that, let's say you moved in from out of town, or let's say you have a car problem on the road and you're on your phone or whatever, and you're trying to find the right shop for you. And then somebody offers you a quick tour with a video, and maybe the owner's introducing himself. He might have a few customers there giving testimonials. It just warms it up before you ever make that phone call or show up at the shop. And Patrick does a phenomenal job of that. But the biggest reason Patrick's good at it is he's been in the industry so long. So you take a guy like that, he knows the questions to ask, he knows what to show, and give the customer the good feel that they need to have before they show up there.
The next one is create a work happy, values-based culture with Mark Pons of Chapel Hill Tire. Again, a multi-location tire dealer based in North Carolina, and Chapel Hill Tire was founded in 1953 and purchased in 1964 by Mark's father. This is an amazing story. And some of the things that stuck out, again, that work happy, drive happy environment, deciding against laying off employees again during the pandemic. He describes the program he built for employee training and development, and why he focuses more on culture and less on numbers.
You know, I met Mark the minute I got into the tire business. And I've had a long relationship with him and with Chapel Hill Tire. I have nothing but pure admiration for the operation Mark has built and runs. Some of my best friends work for Chapel Hill Tire, work with Mark, and gosh, what a stand-up operation.
Yeah, what a story. That's amazing. The next one is creating an inclusive automotive business with Jody of AskPatty.com. And it sounds like she's been featured all over the place: New York Times, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, CNN, Oprah Magazine, and much more. And a couple of things that stuck out is, empowering women in the automotive industry and finding a personal board of directors that will contribute to different perspectives, why curb appeal matters. And she also explains how your business can become certified female friendly.
This was one of those episodes that I walked out of my office and told my wife, you're not going to believe this conversation I've just had. Jody is incredibly engaging, but she's also, very much a thought leader in the industry. Part of our discussion was talking about TikTok, which very rarely weaves its way into our world or our part of the marketing sphere. But gosh, what an interesting person. I look forward to talking to Jody again soon.
The next one is acquisition for exponential growth with Jeffrey Gardner of Sun Auto, and is vice president of marketing for Sun Auto Tire and Service. And again, it says with the first acquisition of BrakeMax in late 2017, a couple of things that stuck out with Jeffrey in this episode. He explains Sun Auto's pattern of acquiring businesses. He talks about hiring challenges in the automotive industry in general, some of the first steps toward transitioning to electric vehicles, and future growth.
Yeah, Jeffrey's a great interview, and we seem to have become friends just from making contact within the industry. But he's actually now been promoted to vice president of integration when they do acquire a new set of shops or what have you. But yeah, Jeffrey gave me the indication of just how unique Sun Auto is. One of the things that stood out to me is that when they purchase a chain of stores, they know that they're purchasing a brand, and they leave that brand intact. It's just new ownership basically. And there's an upside for the owner employees because the company's constantly growing and they're constantly expanding, and they're on the move to acquire more now. And the folks that Chris Garman and Tommy Gaynor, who are in the acquisition side now, that lead the acquisition process and then turn them over to Jeffrey. We've interviewed them recently as well, and they're in just constant go mode. But the really fascinating company, and the way they acquire companies, but also the way they treat people, and the way they're able to retain people. They're not looking for turnover. They want to acquire companies, and they want to keep the same employees that came with the company, which just says a lot about who they are and what they're trying to be. And all of their upper management came in the acquisition mode basically. So I think it's like 90% of their upper management were involved in their own ownership of their own shops at one time or another. So everybody on the inside knows how
how everything's run.
Yeah, and how the shop owners feel about, finally selling out if they're thinking about retiring and they don't have a legacy or a person to leave it to. And when they go through that mental process of letting go and selling it, all of these folks, it seems like on the inside with Sun Auto, have that understanding and that empathy.
The next one is kind of to this effect, which is preparing for an exit, right? With Dennis, and on the opposite ends, right? So he's a partner at Cardinal Brokers and offers full brokering services with a focus on the tire service and automotive related industries. And they have over 40 years of combined experience doing this, and even is a thought leader, as well as his contributions in Modern Tire Dealer magazine as well. Some things that stuck out with this one, Dennis, is how to start preparing for an acquisition or an exit, differences in selling process for a company with 15 locations versus just 3, and how do retail, wholesale, and commercial affect the value of your business.
In interesting timing, I was talking to Dennis yesterday, and he and I were discussing Sun Auto and how those guys are just on fire, well into the 300 locations, even since we recorded the episode with Jeffrey. Dennis has spent his, much like many of our interviewees, Dennis has spent his career in this world, right? In the tire and auto repair industries. The key takeaway when I think about mergers and acquisitions is getting your house in order, getting everything ready. And that's not a 5-minute process, nor does anyone wake up today and decide today's the day I'm going to sell my business. But it's a multi-year process, right? It's 1, 2, 3, 5 years getting ready and heading towards that exit point. So fascinating guy and wonderful contact.
The next one is how to take strategic business risks with Jared. And he's the president of Tires Plus of North Dakota. And again, over 20 years experience in the field and in the industry. Some things that stuck out was why is the replication model so effective? He actually discusses some milestones and his children's involvement in the business. And I'd love to hear how common that is, because it sounds like some of the previous ones, it follows suit, and parallels that exist between coaching, football, and business. And also talks about his mentors.
Yeah, Jared's, I feel like another guy that I've become friends with. And what's really neat about Jared is he's in North Dakota. He's in several rural markets technically. And he's got a multi-store operation, and he's done this all himself. I mean, he's not a second generation guy. He got into the industry and with his dad, and they decided that there was the right opportunity, and they built it. And it's just it's so getting in it together in a sense, and then building it with your dad. And now he's bought out his dad, and they just had a great run. But he's kind of reached a point in his life where he's able to look back and appreciate what he's been able to accomplish. And he's got several sons. He's always been involved in coaching football. And, football's a lot like life. You're going to get knocked on your butt once in a while, and you got to get back up, and you got to go back to the huddle, regroup with your team, and figure out, how do we advance the ball? And that's what I think Jared has the most fun doing, and describing kind of the connection between football and business. And he's a problem solver and just a fun guy to talk to. And we've got a lot of admiration for his business.
Jeremy, Mike and I've known Jared for quite some time, and we got introduced to him years ago by our good friend Dan Malloy of Malloy Sales Development Group. Dan connected us, and just again, Jared's one of those guys that you not only do we look forward to our interactions with him, but just look forward to hearing what he's working on, because nothing stays still around Jared.
The next one, thanks, Neal, is customer satisfaction, franchising, and marketing in the auto care industry with Andy of Rad Air. And a couple of things that stuck out. He says for the last 35 years, Andy's been president and CEO of Rad Air Complete Car Care. And he talks about his passion for cars that began with his dad, decision to grow Rad Air into a franchise, which I'm sure doesn't always happen, and what makes a quality mechanic, advertising and marketing in the auto care industry, which you guys know very, very well, and why cheap really usually does not mean great.
Andy, I met Andy on an actual cold calling on his business, and then originally his partner is Bill Snow, and Bill had reached out to me, and then we just stayed in touch. I mean, we were going back and forth, and then Andy was brought in the equation, and then Andy, I have a lot of admiration for what he built with the company Right Air, and he's franchised it. They're continuing to franchise, trying to continue to grow nationally now. They weren't there when we met them, and it's fun to see these guys really take off. But what really caught my attention about Andy more than anything is he just seems like a guy with an enormous amount of integrity in the industry. He's very transparent, open book, wants to do the best for his employees and his customers, and he puts them in that order, and knows that, hey, if I take care of my employees, they're going to take care of the customer. And that's why he's been doing it for 35 plus years. And he has still a very, I think Neal would agree, just has a high energy level for a guy that's been doing it so long. It's as if this is his first day, and he's still excited about getting out there after it. And he's on this new adventure of helping franchisees now, and just a fun guy to talk to. And Bill Snow is his partner, the same, just top-notch people. So fun interview altogether.
And do you find how common is it for people to form franchises in the automotive industry, in these service-based, I guess, lines?
It's not all that common, but it certainly does happen. Jeremy, I feel like Andy and Bill have the perfect recipe to do this. They have, really strong core values inside the company. They have their act together, and I think that's the key. I believe they're 10 locations right now, growing quickly, and if I were looking for a franchise, I think that'd be a great place to begin.
Yeah, and especially when you meet these guys, that's the feeling. I think, who you're going to trust. That's the vibe. I would agree with Neal there.
So the next one, last but not least, some of your episodes where you talk about, there's two last ones here. One is, who is the real competition to tire dealers and auto shop owners? And this is with, the three of you, right? David, Neal, Mike. Talk a little bit about that.
I look back on these first couple of episodes where we were all talking together, and all of us far more nervous than we are today. But I think it was a really good point for us to get some of these things down and recorded, and to consider, just how important it is that tire dealers and auto repair shop owners think through their marketing plans and what they want to achieve.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is just what I've learned over the years. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation in the industry about how to market properly online. And I think what is interesting is industry knowledge matters exponentially, because a lot of the people that I call on for the company, 90% of them are happy. They don't know that they could be doing it better. They think, well, this is it. I've kind of hit paradise with my marketing. I think I'm running well. And they don't know that there's another 50% out there for them, or an opportunity to grow exponentially in another area. There's things that they just need to constantly be open to and be aware of. And I think Dave, Neal, and I, that's the fun part of working together, is I think we're all open-minded to what other possibilities exist and how can we make the client's opportunities even better. And doing podcasts with people really, what it does for us, I think more than anything, it's fun to interact with people, even if they're not customer material for us, just from what we can learn from them.
Yeah. And, you mentioned something there, Mike, and when you're talking to people, we're not aware of our own blind spots, right? And so when you talk to some of these companies, again, like, things may be good and they don't realize things could be better. What are some of the blind spots when you're talking to people that they're not seeing, but you see because you have this breadth across all of these different companies in the industry?
I think the biggest thing, I think Neal would agree with this, we see some of the bigger groups, they've gotten, like, let's say a reputable large traditional marketing firm out of a major city, spending good money with them, et cetera. And they go with the assumption these folks know what they're doing on the digital side in the automotive aftermarket space that we're in, tires and auto services. And it can be a very false assumption. And then you find out, wow, we were spending so much on what? And when, you take a company, and I'm not saying that the company was intentionally doing anything wrong. They intentionally probably thought they were doing well within the industry. But if you're not in this industry every day, tires is just such a unique little animal out there. And there's so many of them, and it's just so many facets to it. And if you're not in this industry every day, it's hard for these marketing companies that are broad, or it's hard for, internal staffs at, let's say, the tire dealer shops. They can't be experts in everything, and you can't figure out all the angles. And I think the advantage we have is we're always looking for the angles, the low hanging fruit, the best priced, keyword phrases when you're paying for search, or when you're developing SEO. What are the best angles within the industry? And I think that's the comfort sweet spot for the three of us. Is anytime we talk to somebody today, we're not crossing multiple industries and having to put on a different hat. We're in this industry day in and day out. Every phone call's, on that same path, and we bring that expertise. And Neal in particular, owning tire shops brings it's almost like you get a relief from talking to some customers. They're like, oh, I got a guy that gets it. He knows the pain that I've felt and or I'm feeling today.
Neal, what do you see as some big mistakes people make?
I think a big challenge we see really involves the lack of data, right? Knowing that the phone's ringing, but not necessarily knowing why or from what efforts, and spending money blindly on marketing just with the hopes that it will somehow result in revenue. That disconnect, and to be clear, it's really, really difficult, right, to make those connections in our industry. But that disconnect leaves a lot of business owners to rely on their gut instinct or just historical relationships, and to understand that really that there is almost every case, there is a better path. There's a way to improve and to be far more efficient. I think one of the other big challenges is markets are way different, right? All of this has changed dramatically over the past 2 years with COVID, but also markets are incredibly difficult even inside a particular region. Almost every 10, 15 location operation has a poor performing store. And chances are that what you're doing at the other 14 stores won't solve the problem at that 15th store. So being able to roll up our sleeves, I've done it within the past week, to dive in and put my shop owner hat back on and look at, what are the potential causes and how do we fix it with marketing. I think that's one of the most rewarding things we can do and solve one of the biggest challenges our clients face.
First of all, I want to thank both of you, and I encourage everyone to kind of check out those individual episodes. And if you're watching the video or looking at the video, you can go to treadpartners.com, and you can go to the podcast page, which is treadpartners.com/podcast. Learn more. They have, if you have questions in general, you can contact them on the contact page. Are there any other places we should point people online outside of treadpartners.com?
Well, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Rise 25. I had talked myself out of building a podcast, and once I've truly understood the benefits from Jeremy. Jeremy, you and your team and John all deliver to us what we try to deliver to our clients, and that is the peace of mind to knowing that it's done right and efficiently and effectively. And thank you to you and the team.
Thank you. Check out, thank you, appreciate it. Check out more episodes. You guys are titans of industry, so everyone should listen to Gain Traction and go to treadpartners.com.
Thanks for listening to the Gain Traction podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.